Welcome back over here to the hunting lodge project, where we are trimming out this 8,000 square foot hunting lodge with some pretty cool spaces. There's like a golf simulator room, a massage area, bunk beds. We're gonna be in that room today where the bunk beds are, and I'm gonna be doing some jamming. I've got several cased openings here, both paint grade and stain grade. We're gonna be working on the paint grade ones since I'm still kind of waiting on my stain grade delivery to come in. But I'll show you guys just some basic tips and techniques on how I go about jamming a opening for a cased opening and for a door. Let's get into it. So as we make our way back into this bunk room, we have all of our T&G now installed. Everywhere, walls, ceiling, everything is covered. And to answer a few questions, the reason we broke this seam right here, I said this briefly in that video where we went over this, but this is gonna have a beam going across it. That's why we have a joint right there. This room was longer than 16 foot, so we strategically broke the seam where our beam would be. Another question, this is all paint grade, so this is gonna be like a light color. In here today, I'm gonna focus on jamming this cased opening as you enter the space, and then the jam for this opening here. This one's actually gonna have a little French door on it. So two doors that are gonna swing into the space. So let's start with this one first. That's gonna have the French door on it. What I wanna do is go around and measure for my jam. So from drywall to my T&G here, I wanna get a measurement. I'm reading 7.5 right here. So I know I'm gonna have to make these out of 1x10s or 1x12s. I have 1x12s for this, and the offcut rip I'll use somewhere else. But I don't want to just check in one spot here that I have 7.5. I want to kind of go around and get an average and just make sure nothing crazy is going on. And I'll check this in multiple places on this side, on the header up there as well, and on my other side here. Seven and a half. Yep, I'm just checking for any inconsistencies in this. And you're gonna have some, obviously, with your framing lumber, not always gonna be perfect, especially up here. And your drywalls, though, is gonna be pretty consistent. It's gonna be in the framing where you see variation. And I'm not seeing much at all on this one. So 7.5. We're gonna check at our bottoms too. I'm happy with 7.5 here. Ooh, we're a little tight here at the bottom. Oh, we're golden. Anytime you can, you always want to look for symmetry and balance, right? As we leave this bathroom suite, we want to measure these two walls, okay? All right, so you can see here, I'm about 14 3/8, I'll call it. And over here, very similar. All I have to do is make sure each jam leg here that I install is plumb, and I can install this. So I need to get some shims and my big level. If I take 4 shims and have them sitting opposite of each other, I should have just about a 1/2 inch, if you can see that. I'm actually closer to 9/16 with these shims. You got to kind of check it. Shims are manufactured different, but I'm happy with the 9/16. So we're going to take these. If I put this level here, you hear that rocking? There's a high spot right around there. You can see where I put the X on it. So I don't want to shim here at all, because if I shim that high spot, I'm just going to have to do my other shims a lot more to get around that again. So let's go ahead and get these tacked in. Same thing to this side. See if I have any high spot. Yeah, definitely right here. You don't want to shim right there. So I've got my shims in my locations, minus my high spots. And now we can get our level on it and plumb off of these shims. Now, if you're thinking like, are you assuming that this is square right here? For right now that I am, and we will tweak that later if we need to, but we are ready to plumb these shim locations up. It's pretty good, actually. Let me show you what we're looking like right off the bat. That's decent. I can live with that. But we got to check them in relation to all of these. See what we got there. So I could come off a little bit at the top. So I'll pull it off to where my bubble's centered, and then I'll see how much I need to shim there. So that's basically what I'm doing. So I'm gonna go back to 2 hands here. And keep in mind, this is the same way. Like if I had a pre-hung door, this is what I would do. Except I would, if this was my hinge side, I would do this to my hinge side, nail it against the hinge side, and then micro adjust my strike side as you typically would. So after a little bit of finesse here, you can see we're touching all of our shims. And I'll show you guys how we're looking. Our level up, you can see I've got more shims up there, of course. There's where we're at on our bubble. And so we're touching here, and touching there. Now I'm going to do the exact same thing to this side. Now, how are we going to determine the height of our jamb? Well, what I do is I always have my legs, right, my jamb leg, supporting my header. I do not have my header sandwiched in between the jambs. How do we determine that height? You want to look at the doors in the area and match those doors. You don't want different door heights. And since I have this door and 2 pocket doors right here on the side in this little bath suite, I'm gonna match those. And these are pocket doors. So I'm gonna measure that off, and that'll tell me my jamb leg height. And if you caught my last video and you saw how I did these split jambs, and this one isn't done yet, but I can tack that up there, and that will tell me the height that that door needs to be, or the leg. We're gonna do, let's do 95.5. So now how do we find the width of our header? Well, I always like to give the widest opening that I can for the given size, but we already built this thing in about 1 inch, a little bit more up on top as we had to shim in more. But now, since we're plumb, I should be able to take my tape and measure from one shim to the other. We're gonna go 33.5, 33.5. If we're around 33.5, really close, like within a 16th, I'm just gonna go 33 3/8, back off 1/8, and that'll give me some movement there to micro adjust. Like I was saying, I'm kind of assuming this is square, but you know, it may or may not be. That'll give me room to kind of micro adjust everything and get it right where I want it. So I'm gonna have to make this out of 1x12. And I'll have, this is what I was talking about, I'll have my leg supporting my head. I'll make sure those are flush right there and shoot them. Since our finished floor is not in here, I'm just putting another piece of Windsor there because I know it's going to be a 3/4 floor and it matches with the tile right there. That'll get me right where I need to be. And then this thing should just snug up. We'll flush it up with our wall here, all the way up and down. And let's see where we're at on our bubble. I can live with that. That is perfection. Love it. Check this side. That looks good. I'm also going to check my header. I got to make sure that that is level. My sides are plumb. I can shim up my legs, or I'd only have to shim up one if it's not plumb. But that's very important too. We got to make sure that's plumb. We're going to be putting doors in this opening. I got to say, just from looking at this, it does look like this side needs to go down a little bit. Yeah, you could see it. Just like I did on the jam, I'm gonna hold it to where I have my bubble centered. Then I'm gonna look over here, like where my left thumb is. Engage, that's about 3/16. So this leg needs to drop down about 3/16. Yep, I can handle that. A gun of choice, 15 gauge, 2.5 inch nails, shot on the shim locations. I'm gonna push that into all the shims, and I want to check this. Because if we're plumb on our contact points, like if we're hitting against our shims and we're plumb, which we are right there, hopefully you can see that, that tells me, look, I'm plumb there and I'm touching back there. See that? See how it's touching? I'm gonna take a shim, slide it in there to compensate for this twist in the framing. I didn't hit the stud or the shim with that one. How I install a jam for a cased opening. Plumb up one side, plumb up the other side, get your pieces cut. Consider the heights of these, of nearby doors. Before you cut your pieces up, check your jam width, go over a hair if you need to, adjust things if you need to. There's been some times where I have jams that are so off, I have to taper a cut with the track saw because the framing is just that far off. And if you're wondering if I'm gonna shim above this header, the answer is no. I feel like that Windsor is strong enough. I don't need to do anything there. I'm not gonna have anything screwed into that. All the weight of my doors is gonna be on my jam sides, and those are secure. So yeah, not gonna put anything up there on this small of a span. If it was larger, like a double door, I definitely would. And this side over here is gonna be super similar. I won't go through the whole thing again, but there is one part of this I need to consider. So I've got this now built, ready to go in. The only thing I did different here was I put a big spacer on this side to get me off the wall here so I can have my full thickness of my casing here. Quick way to check these is get 2 pieces of flat stock and just see if you're kind of equally spaced here. And with this side in, I didn't even have to shim. That was actually a really straight stud. You can see that. Since we have a 4-foot span right here, I'm gonna go ahead and shim right here just because this could, I mean, you can see this is more flimsy right here in the middle. So we'll get that shimmed exactly where it is and then shot up. Some samples I made. This is for all of our window stuff. We got a 1-inch stool, 2 3/4 casing. We are not using that. We've got that 1x4 apron. That's sample 1. Sample 2, these little mock-ups, just the stool with no casing. We might be using that. I do not like that. And coming over here, we've got 2 more samples. This is my favorite one right here. This is a back band casing. And then we've got our apron 2 down here with the 1-inch stool. To me, that one looks the best. And then here's like my second choice, just a 1x4.